Hi and welcome to exercise 5. I have started up the AutoCAD program and we've just got to run through our normal, which is check the interface. I can obviously see I've got my grid on, which is F7. I haven't got my F9 one on yet, so I'll just put that one on. The dynamic input and the dynamic UCS are off, and I appear to still have my tabs up there. Okay, so the last thing we do before we can start is Z space A enter, and that will put us into the right mode. We're good to go. So we've visualized our normal drawing paper, but I've changed it up a little bit this time, that we're not going to be able to use the snap as much, because I've tried to make both the longitudinal dimension of the rectangular plate somewhere that's not within a half an inch, so we can't snap around it. We're going to have to draw and use offset commands and things like that. So we need to draw a rectangle that is 6 1/4 inches long and approximately 3 3/8 high. So we're going to go to the rectangle command first and left click, bring it down and click some point lower left hand side of the screen, say there. Start to move it away, and then we're going to use our @ sign so that we're not measuring from the absolute corner. We're going to be doing incremental from that first click point, so it's shift 2. That gives us the @ sign, because the @ is just above the 2. And then we do 6.25 because we enter the X dimension first, comma 3.38, and that will give us the height, and enter. So you can see that one just snapped in. I'm going to grab my pan tool and just move that a little bit more central of screen. Okay, so our rectangle, our basic rectangle, is in. Now what's going to happen is we need to look at putting the radii on these corners, but I want to use the option which is on fillet, so that we can use, as this is a polyline, you can see that by the label that comes up, we can put all the 4 corners in at the same time. So we're going to go up to fillet and click fillet. Now down here I can click radius, and then on the radius I want to specify 0.25 and then enter. And then I want to click the polyline option. Now you can either enter P then enter, or just click that little polyline button down there and go anywhere near the outside of the shape, and you'll see all the 0.25 radii will come in at once, and left click the screen. And now that is actually done as far as that's concerned. Now using the polyline command, we're going to use a different type of technique, which is snapping to a given point. I want to use the polyline command. Come down here, go anywhere near this left hand side, and you'll see that the only 2 points you can really get, especially with the snap on, are the end points of that straight line. Now, we want the midpoint, and it's not showing up. So if I go down here, see this little icon here, that is your object snap. So you click the downward caret, that little little white triangle and the little black space to the right of it, and you'll see that all of the different object snaps come up. Tangent, extension, quadrants, etc. Well, you can see that the midpoint one is unchecked, so I'm just going to check that midpoint option. Okay, and then I can click that back down, come anywhere near this end now. So apart from getting the end points, we now get the midpoint. And if I left click whilst it's on midpoint, it's going to snap it to the midpoint of that line. Now we need another midpoint at this side, but we can't really get too close to the line because of the snap. Now if you hit your F9 key, it will turn off your snap. Unfortunately, with the recording software I'm using, it's already detailed F9 to be start and stop the recording, so if I do that, the video's going to stop, so I can't do that. So I'm just going to go down here and do the other alternative thing, click on that, and it's going to give me a free-flowing line. Okay, so I'm going to go on here, and just like before, I get the end points if I go anywhere near the end, I get a midpoint if I go anywhere near the middle. So I'm going to left click there. Okay. Now we want this to be a 3/8 plate. So now that we've got this line in the center there, we can offset this line by half the thickness of the plate in both directions, and the outside lines that the offset produces will be the basis for the plate that's going to be coming upwards. Okay, so I'm going to go to the offset command. Now, if you look where I am on the top screen on the modify, it's the lower right hand option is offset. Now, it tells you immediately specify the offset distance, and as I've said, that's going to be 0.1875, then enter. So once we've done that, if we come over this line and left click it to select it, you'll see that immediately I click it, it puts a line down below it, or it could be above it. It will basically offset that line in the direction that you pick. So I'm just going to click down the bottom and click there, go back up to here, click, move it upwards, and left click again. So I've just spread that line out and offset it downwards, selected the line again and offset it upwards, and now we're good to go. But you'll notice that we're still stuck in the middle of the offset command. So I'm going to hit the escape key to get out of that. I'm going to grab this middle line here, which is just sacrificial because we just needed it to be at the midpoint of that plate, and now we can just hit the delete key. So that gives us everything we need to start putting our drawing together. Right, now that we've done that, we will look down to putting the 4 holes in. We use the same offset command, but this time we're going to grab the outside shape. So we're going to go to offset. We'll set the offset distance to 0.5, enter. Grab this outside shape and left click. As you see, move it inwards or outwards. It's going to be slightly different either way you go, but this is going to give us those nice corners. So I'm just going to left click again. Okay. Now that we've got this square on here, we've now got the center point of where the circles are going to go. So the next move is grab a circle and then place them on the points of that. So I'm going to grab a circle and come down here basically. Okay, so circle, point, and these holes are 0.25 I believe, so 0.25, then enter. Okay, now we can put that on each corner and just do the same thing, circle command, pick the end point, 0.25, or another alternate is copy, left click the circle, right click to say that's it, grab that end point, which is the end of the line, and place it there, there, and there. Once we've got that on there, we don't need the square anymore. That was just for layout, and we just hit delete. Now there's one more thing we need to do. This, because it's an enclosed polyline, we can extrude. These holes in their own right are polylines, so we can extrude those, but 2 individual lines won't extrude. So we need to put a little bit of polyline between there, and then the same thing that end, and then pet the things together. So I'm going to grab my polyline command, come down to the endpoint here and click, come down to there and click, and then I'm going to do a right click and enter to get rid of that, but the line is still there. Okay, so polyline again, left click, right enter, and done. Okay, so we're going to use the pedit command, which you can type it in, P-E-D-I-T, then enter. We'll go to this pop down on the modify menu and select that center object at the top, edit polyline. So I'm going to select the top one of those polylines for the thing that I want to join them to. Then I'm going to enter J, or just click this little button down here for join, and I'm going to come in and grab the end top, right. This is all left clicking. So that's all selection. I've selected the left, the top, the right, and the bottom, and then right click. Now this thing now, if I hit escape, when I hover over it, the whole thing should be there. It's now a fully closed polyline, and we're good to go for the extrusions. So over to the nav bar, left click that. Just going to tip this thing over a little bit so we can see the extrusions. Now we're going to do a 3/8 drop, a negative drop. So we're going to need minus 0.375, and that's going to put that plate downwards against the Z. And then we're going to need a positive extrusion for that top rectangle. Okay, we're going to do that positively 3.38. So let's just go through those. It's quite weird. I've got a problem with my mouse, I think. So I'll go to 3D Tools and then go to Extrude. Grab the left click the outside profile, then each one of these holes in turn. Those ones are all selected. Do my right mouse click and enter, and you see that just flies it into that command. And now we want this will be minus 0.375, and then enter. And you can probably see already, if I tip the drawing plane up, it's gone below the drawing plane because it was a negative number. Now we want to put this plate upwards, as I said before, 3.38. So we do extrude again, grab that, right click and enter. Put our plate in the upward direction. All we need to do, we don't even need to drag it in the upward direction. We just need to enter a positive number of 3.38. Then enter. There are two things left to do. The first thing is to subtract these holes from this plate. The second thing, because I don't believe in having three objects one on top of the other when they should be like a molded object, so to speak, is we're going to union this top plate to the base plate. And both of those commands are up here on this menu. There's the union command, and below it the subtract command. Okay, so let's union it first. So we're going to union, you select the objects, this one and this one. Now keep your eye on that little area there, and the same thing this end. Okay, you can see where the two had this automatic line there. Well, I'm going to right click. Did you see them disappear? Now this is all one object. It doesn't need that break line for the corner of the object. They're now one. So that's a good tip to keep an eye on if you're not quite sure whether it's going to do what you want it to do or not. But these will need to be unioned. If they're not unioned, you will get deducted marks. And then look at the subtract. Always select the object you want to take away from first. So left click this whole shape, right click, and then left click, left click, left click, and left click the holes, and then right click. So we can go into visualize like we've done before, go to the 2D wireframe option, which will pop down our visualize views per se, and I've just done the normal perspective or realistic view, and then we can turn that thing around with our orbit. And if you don't want the nasty looking grid in the way, you can just hit your F7 key on screen. So I'll just get out of that, hit my F7 key, go back into orbit, and then you can just twiddle it around and admire your work. Okay, well, I hope you've enjoyed that exercise, and I'll see you again in exercise 6. Bye.